Hello, I'm Brandy Nagel. I'm with Georgia Tech and the Georgia Minority Business Development Agency Business Center. That's the Georgia MBDA Business Center. Today, I'm with one of my favorite clients. Mary, how long have we known each other?
Brandy, I think we've known each other probably somewhere in the range of 8 to 10 years. It's
Yeah,
been a wonderful friendship over the years, and I'm thinking maybe 8 to 10. Yeah.
yeah. What I remember is that you reached out to me and you said, okay, I'd like to talk with you. Can we go to lunch?
Yes.
And so we had lunch in Tech Square, and I thought, oh, she's so smart and she's so proper.
Well, that those were fun days. It was pre-pandemic. And so it was fun to get all dressed up and be all, straight laced. But since the pandemic, I have learned to love sweats and
Yes,
t-shirts, and
yes.
it's been a good life. I cannot complain about that. I've gone to the dark side.
All right, all right. Let, let's get started here. So I want
Okay.
to talk with you today about your history with winning SBIR proposals
Okay.
and the unique insights that you have because you know things about the SBIR
Mhm.
proposal and grant making and award process that I think not many people know. So I want to ask you about your background and some insights from your perspective and also sort of observations about what you've seen out there in the marketplace.
Sure.
Let's
Yeah.
start with tell me a little bit about your background. You've got a PhD at the end of your name. Tell me a little bit about how you earned that.
So my PhD is in molecular genetics. I have a PhD in molecular genetics from Cornell University, and that was followed with postdoctoral training at Rutgers Medical School. So when I finished doing all of that, I have a very interesting and mixed background. When I finished doing that, I went to work in public health, and I was a senior director of a statewide genetics screening program. And I was able to see firsthand how things that were generated in the laboratory could be translated and used. And we now refer to that as from the bench to the bedside.
Mhm.
But the genetics program that we put together, actually here in the state of Georgia, I was the first executive director, for the program. I ran the program, designed it, ran it. It was wonderful. And so I got to see science in action, not just in the lab, but how it impacted people's lives and how legislation impacts how that technology gets used once it
Yeah,
comes from the lab. So
yeah.
it was quite a wonderful experience. I learned quite a bit there. And then from there moved to California and had the opportunity to find out about SBIR funding, Small Business Innovation Research money. And we'll talk more about that in a little bit, but what I found is there are a lot of companies down in San Diego, and at the time, this was in I would say the late 80s. And I found out that they were getting their startup money using this process called Small Business Innovation Research. So since I moved out there with my husband's job, I didn't have a job myself. So I started doing technical writing. And I like to say I'm a scientist who writes rather than a writer who writes about science. There's a difference. So anyway, I started writing and I thought to myself, why am I writing these grants for these folks? Maybe I could write it for myself. And my husband said, oh, I don't think you'll never get it. I wrote my first one and I got it funded the first time. I got an almost perfect score. I couldn't believe it. I was so excited. And that had to do with breast cancer and African American women. And from there, I went on to, I won over a dozen SBIR awards. So I really do understand the process, and I've seen the program emerge over the years and how it's changed and how the emphasis on certain things with regard to the program has changed. But yeah, that's my background. So I would consider myself an entrepreneur and a serial entrepreneur, because now my focus and my passion is helping other minority-owned small businesses go after SBIR funding. And it's been quite rewarding for me to see it, because it's a new day and it's a real opportunity for minority-owned businesses that are looking to come up with innovative products and ideas.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Wonderful. Okay, so SBIR,
Mhm.
and I've heard this called America's Seed Fund.
Yes,
This
yes.
is money that the federal government sets aside to invest in research that's being done by small businesses.
So yes, that's kind of the gist of it. But basically what happens is we have 11 government agencies that participate in this program. And they set aside a little over 3% of their annual budget to fund SBIR programs. So obviously, the larger the agency, the more money they have, the bigger the budget they have, the more money they have to fund the projects. But they all must these 11 agencies must set this money aside. And so each agency will run an SBIR program. They're all different. The commonality is the structure of the SBIR program, Small Business Innovation Research Program. It's awarded in phases, a phase one, which can be 6 months to a year, depending on the agency. And that's where you have an idea that you're looking to develop, and you use that money in phase one, typically over around $175,000. That's on average, depending on the agency, to do some research to prove your concept. And then there's the phase two, where once you've proven your concept, you ask for additional funding, and that can be over $1 million plus. And that can run anywhere from another year to 2 years, depending on what you propose to do and how you propose to evaluate it. So I did a quick check before we got on this Zoom interview, and I found out that last year, according to SBIR.gov award data, there were about 6,700 awards made, and it's been about $3.8 billion. So it's a lot of money out there. And I really think that it's a wonderful opportunity to develop an innovative idea for a product or service that you might have. One of the key missions of this program is to help women and underrepresented minority-owned businesses move into the area of innovation and commercialization of that innovation. And unfortunately, the program has not lived up to what we had hoped it would do in terms of including that group of innovators. So, my mission is to try to change that. I think we can change that. And I'm focused now on helping minority businesses capture some of this money.
Okay, I love that. So I want to ask a question.
Mhm.
My perception is that SBIR money is hard to win.
Your perception is correct. It is hard to win. And I tell people that it's difficult, but it's not impossible.
Okay.
And there's a difference in my mind. Um, some people will call me and they will say, and I get a lot of calls because people know I understand this space, and they will say to me, call Mary Harris because she knows about the program. So I'll get a call from an entrepreneur and they'll say, Dr. Harris, I want an SBIR award. And I said, well, we all want an SBIR award. So, but let me tell you, it's not that easy. You don't just fill out some paperwork and then somebody gives you them. It's not like applying for a bank loan. This is a very rigorous academic exercise. I tell people who want to get into this, this is not for the faint of heart. If you really want some money and you want to take your chances, maybe take a flight to Las Vegas, have a good weekend, play the tables. Your chances of getting some money are better going to Vegas, and you'll have a really good time as opposed to the pain you're going to go through to write this application. And then after I tell them this, I say, okay, if you really want to do it, I can help you with this. But there's an advantage to going after it. And I want to emphasize this. It's free money. You're going to get over $1 million to develop an idea, and you're not going to have to pay that money back. That's the first advantage of doing this. The second is you're going to own the technology once you finish. Once you develop this and you can sell it for money, lots of money, you don't have to share that with anybody. You own all of it. And the third thing is you don't have to give up any equity in exchange for this. So you get to keep all of the equity in your company, you get to keep all of the money, and you get to sell the idea once you prove that the idea works. So it is a very wonderful opportunity for minority businesses who typically are not in a position where they can get traditional funding for an idea, or they don't have inheritances that someone in the family can give them some money to get something going. So it's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. And that is why I say, even though it's difficult, it's not impossible once you understand how to get it done. And that's what I do, is I help people get it done.
So the number of minority-owned businesses or minority business owners who are applying for SBIR grants is low.
Yes, it is.
But why? You've just explained why this is a good thing. Why is the number so low?
So the numbers are low primarily, well, there's one huge elephant in the room, and that's awareness.
Okay.
They simply do not know that the program exists. Okay, so awareness is the number one problem, and the agencies, many of the agencies have not done a purposeful outreach to the minority community. They may say, well, we have it on our website that we encourage women and minorities to apply. But if you're not in that space on a daily or fairly regular basis, when I say in that space, you're not going to the website or you're not going there to look, then it doesn't matter. There have to be aggressive efforts to reach out to these communities and these groups of innovators and let them know about the program. So awareness is the first problem. The second problem is there's a misperception. There are two groups of minority and women-owned companies. I think there are those that are affiliated with a college or university. That's one set. And then there are those that are community-based that they have good ideas, but they're not regularly interacting with the institution of higher learning. And so the problems are different for both groups. The academic folks, because the application is can be complicated and somewhat challenging, the people who have the academic focus are used to writing grant proposals, and they often have support available to them. The problem is they don't have the time. It takes a lot of time to do this, to do these applications, but they will have in many instances, the connections, the support in order to get the grant written. When we look at the community-based innovators, there's a different set of concerns there. They have a different set of headwinds. Primarily, the first one is that they don't really, many of them feel that they have the ability to write the application. They look at the application and it's just extremely onerous. It's time consuming. For many of them, it's an it's in a language that they don't understand. You know, I put it to you like this. I'm taking a course myself and they were teaching the technology part and the guy was going on and someone said, well, how do you like it? I said, well, it's great for somebody who speaks the technology language, but I don't speak the technology language. I don't know one software program from another. I know
Yeah.
Word and Excel.
Mhm.
So when you pick up a document and you see things in there like specific aims, you're thinking to yourself, what does that mean? Okay, so that's part of the problem. And then some of the other things that they think they have to have a PhD in order to successfully compete. Now, I'm going to say this. Many awards do have principal investigators that have PhDs, but a PhD, the business is applying for the grant, not the individual, the
Mhm.
business. And it's the business owner's challenge to put together a strong team of people to get this application and to get the research done. So you can bring on a PhD onto your team, but as the business owner, you don't have to be a PhD yourself. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yep. Yep.
So it's these kinds of nuances and things that need to be explained and help with actually getting the application done. So those are some of the headwinds that face minority and women applicants when they sit down to try to do this.
You used this phrase earlier. It is difficult but not impossible to win.
That's right.
And can you tell me a little bit more about that? I have heard numbers, and this is outdated information, that of all the applications, less than 20% are funded.
That's right. You're right. It is. That's true. It's difficult for everybody to get this. There are, of course, exceptions to this. There are companies that have what they call small SBIR mills, where they hire people and they just crank out application after application. We're going to set that aside. We're talking about the average small business owner. Uh, Most of the applications that go in, it is true, do not get funded on the first try for sure. Because of the way the review process and the decisions are made, the funding rate goes up for people who take that information from the first failure and they look at the comments from the reviewers and they tweak their application and send it in. So second submission applicants, the success rate increases. So this is not, obviously there's not endless funding available. And so what they're trying to do is fund the most, in the reviewer's opinion, the most worthy applications. And I say, and I use the word worthy loosely because everyone thinks their idea is worthy, but they're trying to see those that are going to make the most impact and in the arena of innovation and commercialization. So yes, the numbers are low. I have to be honest about that. Minority companies submit on average, I mean, we win about maybe 3% of the awards. It's not high, but we can change that. It doesn't have to stay that way. It's not high for a number of reasons. And
Yeah.
we're talking about some of those reasons now.
Yeah. Okay, so I have a few questions.
Mhm.
You said it is a rigorous process
Yes.
of review. So a applicant would submit that SBIR proposal,
Mhm.
and then it goes for review. And uh,
It goes,
how long does that take?
well, it, the process, you know, when people say, oh, I want to get some money for SBIR, and I tell them, you know, this is not money that's going to come quickly. You've got to write the application, submit the application, and then it goes through administrative processes to be logged in and sent to peer reviewers. And the peer reviewers are going to look at it, and they got your application and many others to look at. And then they will meet and they will score those applications based on whatever criteria that particular agency is looking for. And then they will make recommendations with regard to funding. Okay, so different agencies do it differently. Some agencies look at the recommendations and then the program officers will decide who they'd like to fund. Other agencies have what they call pay lines. NIH is one of them. And if you hit the pay line, or if you're at or below the pay line, you will likely get money. If you're above the pay line, then you don't get any, you likely not to get any money. So everybody kind of manages the program a little bit differently.
Okay.
But so by the time you go through that, the decisions are made. So let's say the review panel says, okay, the program officer says, okay, the reviewers have looked at this and I've looked at it. And so we're going to fund 50 applications, let's say. So by the time they send those 50 through administrative login and whatever, and the grants officer gets you in the system and you get your letter, it says congratulations, I would say 6 to 9 months. So this money is not coming quickly. It does not happen overnight. Again, keep that Vegas trip in the back of your mind. But let me say this. Once you get the money, you are off to the races. I mean, it's a dream come true. So it's worth it. I think it's worth it. Someone else may say no, but I think it's worth it. And I think for us, in our communities, we are used to being entrepreneurs and innovators, creating things. And this is, in my opinion, a modern day opportunity to continue a tradition in our communities that we've had all along. We're just working in a new field, technology, innovation, and we're trying to get some money to make that happen. So this isn't new to us, and struggle isn't new to us. So again, with the right help and support and motivation, I think this is something that's extremely doable.
I like that. I remember hearing Dr. Chad Womack from UNCF say, science is the universal language and entrepreneurship is the universal opportunity.
Ah, yes, I love it.
I
Yes,
love that.
that's
Isn't that
true.
brilliant? It's so
Yes,
simple
yes,
and yet, yeah, brilliant.
yeah.
Okay, so, all right, so we've been talking about these minority
Mm-hmm,
businesses and, okay, so I have 2 questions. One
mm-hmm.
is, what kind of projects turn into good proposals? And then the second question is, how can a minority business owner get ready to do a strong proposal?
Okay. So different agencies are looking for different things when you say what kinds of ideas. Essentially, the mandate is for across the board is we're looking for something that is game changing, that hasn't been done before or tried before. And oftentimes, the agency can be looking for something, some technology that currently exists, but you have a new way to use that technology
Okay,
in an innovative way
okay,
to make a change there. So it kind of depends. Now, I will tell people everything that is a good business idea is not necessarily a good SBIR idea. And, if you've got a good business idea and you've got a number of things already worked out, that's not a good SBIR idea. It's not, because SBIR is looking for something that needs to be created. Okay. You're coming up with something totally new. If you've already done it, unless you got some unusual application for it, I don't think that makes a really good innovative idea.
okay,
So, so I think, and then the other thing is, I don't think that you have to be able to commercialize whatever it is you come up with. You have to be able to sell it to somebody. So there has to be a market for it. There has to be a market for it, and people have to be willing to pay you for it. That constitutes a good SBIR. It's innovative, it's creative, it's going to make a huge or a significant impact in some way,
Mhm.
and people need to be willing to pay you for it. Now, some people want to say, well, you have to build a business around it. I disagree with that. I don't think you have to build a business around it. You can have an existing business and have a good SBIR idea, okay? But you have to be developing a product that you can sell to somebody.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Commercialization.
The commercialization. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So then I'm a business owner. I've got my idea. And actually, this has happened to one of our clients at the Georgia MBDA Business Center. She'd been
Mhm.
in the industry for a while. She saw an opportunity for
Mhm.
technology to solve a problem.
Mhm.
And so she went after and won an SBIR
Wonderful.
and used the money to develop the idea into a thing,
Mhm.
and actually has won additional funding now from investment funding from a VC firm.
Okay, good.
So, how can a small business owner position themselves to win an SBIR proposal?
That's an interesting question because I think there are a couple of things that you have to do. I think you have to, first of all, you have to have a good idea.
Mhm.
And that has to be an idea that you can demonstrate that it works, the proof of concept, and that it works on a larger scale, the phase 2. And when you are trying to put together a grant proposal, you have to have a team of people and it has to be a fairly strong team that have the expertise that's going to be needed to demonstrate, proof of concept and then test it on a larger scale. So you're going to need to have a strong team in place with the skills and that are necessary to do that kind of research. And then, of course, there are certain administrative things, business registrations that you have to have just to apply for the grant itself. It's not major. I tell people, get your cup of coffee or your tea or your beverage of choice and just say, I'm going to devote today to doing the registrations. Some of them will go quickly and some of them will take you a little bit of time, but that's what you do that day. I'm getting my business registered with SAM and with SBR, all the things that you have to do. So I think those are the things. And then I think you have to make a very strong commitment to get it done. And this is very important. People think, oh, she's just blowing smoke. It couldn't be that difficult. It is difficult. You're going to need to devote the time to get it done, particularly for first timers. So what kind of time are we talking about? I would say 4 hours a day, probably for 5 to 6 weeks. I'm not kidding. This is because you're new, you're going to be new at this, and the forms will be new, the language will be new, the way they want it said, the rules of the game, you need to understand that. You've got to get a strong team together. You've got to get letters of support. You need time to do that. You can't just call somebody up. Maybe you can. I have never had that kind of luck. You got to explain to them what the project is. You got to say, well, I need a letter. Some clients I work with, I can give them a template that they can use, which is helpful. But I mean, then a lot of times they have to clear that with their supervisor. So there's a lot of moving parts. So you really do need to give yourself enough time so that you finish it. I like to have my clients finish a week before the due date. That's important because that way you have some breathing room and you're not, 11:45 p.m. the night that it's due, trying to upload it and you can't get it to go through the system. No, you really do need. So that's what I think you need. You need to commit. You need to come up with a good idea. You need a good, strong team. You have to make the commitment to get it done. And the only way I see doing that is to really seriously set aside the time to do it.
I have been part of a team in the past that
Mhm.
has written grants, and
Okay.
some we have won and some we
Mhm.
have not, but I
Mhm.
have never gone after an SBIR.
Mhm.
I've actually thought about volunteering to be an SBIR reviewer so that I can
Okay.
learn more about the process.
I think by being a reviewer, I don't think you'll learn more about the process. I think by being an applicant, you will learn more about the
Okay,
process.
okay,
A
okay.
reviewer is looking at the highlight reel. A reviewer is looking at what's been done after all that work and pain has gone into it. If you are an applicant, that or you're on a team that's applying,
Yeah,
that is how you find out about the process. By
okay.
being a reviewer, you find out about the process of how the decision is made to award the money.
Mhm.
But you don't find out about the getting to have that document in front of you to read. It's two different things,
Okay.
two different processes.
I have what might seem like a silly question. In some of the proposals that I have written for grants, there
Mm-hmm.
was there was instructions for the font,
Mm-hmm.
for the color of the ink, for the size
Yes.
of the margins,
Yes.
and SBIR
The
similar.
same.
Yeah.
It is the exact same. And a lot of applications get turned down. They don't even get reviewed because people ignore those instructions. Again, it's like a game. If you were on a sports team and you wanted to play, you wanted to get in the game, they would say, okay, where's your team? You can't play by yourself, so you got to have a team. And then they say, okay, here are the rules. Here's how the game is played. I need you to do this, 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 and this. You don't get to say, oh, I don't want to do that part. I'll just do the other. So a lot of times people don't completely provide the information that they need to provide. And then they say, well, we have some rules and regulations here. The font can't be too big or whatever. So you got to play. So a lot of times applications get kicked out just because they don't adhere to the rules and the regulations. So it is much like a team sport. And I tell my clients, it's a team sport.
You've been involved in SBIR proposals for a long time, winning them,
Mm-hmm.
and now coaching
Advice. Mm-hmm.
small businesses on how to win them.
Yes.
Give me a couple of thoughts here. You said it might be better to go to Vegas, it, but you were being silly for someone
Yes.
who's not prepared to do the work. Then they should plan a vacation instead of
Yeah, yeah,
save yourself the heartache. If you're not in it to win it and
that's
serious
right.
about the process, then really,
Right.
don't get started. What other words of wisdom do you have um, for people who are just ready to try for the first time?
I say go for it. I say put together a strong team. And I say do not attempt to do this by yourself without, if you can at all get in touch with someone that can assist. The SBA FAST program is
Mhm,
available.
mhm.
There are consultants out there like myself who can help. They can come to Georgia Tech, I guess,
Mhm.
and get assistance. There's a lot of resources out there to help. I think the most disheartening thing is when people get into it and they're trying to work on these things, and it is just, you know, people quit because they get stuck. And if you have someone that you can call up or go to, or someone
Mhm.
who's working with you,
Mhm.
and you can say, they said they want objectives here, research objectives. What's an objective? You know? And if you got to spend your day trying to figure out what is an objective, you said the heck with it. So it's the point where people get stuck that they tend to give up. So I always say, try to get some help if you can, so someone can walk the road with you, someone who's walked the road before, and they can support you, and answer your questions and motivate you and keep you going and saying, it's going to be okay. You're going to get to the end. It's not indefinite pain. It's finite pain. You will get there. It will end on the submission day. It's over. So it will end. Just keep going, keep moving. Yeah, just keep moving.
All right. Um, I'd like to hear some final thoughts, and then I want to share information on how people can get in touch with you and get in touch with me
Okay.
so we can continue the conversation. Give me some closing thoughts here.
So my closing thoughts are, this is a wonderful opportunity for women and minority-owned businesses. The benefits are, aside from the financial benefits, which I've talked about, there is a certain prestige in winning for your business, in winning an SBIR award. People know that it's very competitive to get the money. There's also another benefit that I didn't mention. If there is a need for your product and service from the federal government, um, you don't have to compete if you've had an SBIR, if you've had that, but if you have that technology or use of that technology that they need, because you've already been vetted,
Oh,
so to speak. So that's something that a lot of people don't know a lot about, but we can Google it just to be sure so that we're not giving out more information. But yeah, also, so you have prestige, and then other things. Some people are actually able to leverage the award as collateral
hmm,
for additional funding. People, venture VCs, and angel investors who are looking, find you a lot more credible because you've had this award. So those are some of the side benefits that people don't think about. Um, so I think it's a good thing. So I think it's good for us to look at this as a source, one source of funding, if particularly if we have something that's innovative, that we can sell later on
yeah,
down the
yeah.
road. I think it's well worth the time.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. All right. I'd like for you to share information on how people can get a hold of you,
Mhm.
and then I'll share information on how to get a hold of me. How can
Okay.
people reach out to you?
Sure. People can reach out to me for this group. I'm just going to say my simple email address, marysh@earthlink.net. And I know it's old, but I love it because it distinguishes me from the Gmail people and all of that. So Mary, MARYSH @earthlink.net. And in the subject line, I think I would like for them to put SBIR help. And
Yeah,
that will let me know that they were listening to this webinar.
yeah,
And
that's fantastic.
I'll get right back to them and can have a short conversation, and we can talk about whether or not they think this is something they want to do.
Great. I love that. All right. So to get a hold of me, I'm Brandy Nagel. I work at the Georgia MBDA Business Center, which is located at Georgia Tech. And the best way to reach out to me actually is through LinkedIn. and just look me up on LinkedIn, Brandy Nagel, Nagel on LinkedIn, and send me a note and we'll talk. And I have known many people who have won SBIRs over the years. I've been involved with NIH and with National Science Foundation. And you're right, there is prestige to the teams who have won it, who have won that grant.
Mhm.
And it is, to me, a marker of an innovative team that's doing some meaningful work.
Yes, it's great. It really is. And again, I do think that we can impact the numbers. We just got to get the awareness that this is out there and then provide the support to those who want to
Yeah,
apply.
yeah,
And
yeah.
Brandy, let me say one other thing. I am also on LinkedIn. So they can find me on LinkedIn as well.
That's right. That's right. Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Mary Harris. I appreciate you sharing your wisdom and your insights on this so much.
Well, this has been a real pleasure, and I hope that I have inspired and motivated some small business owners out there who are innovators and have innovative ideas to take the plunge, as they say.
That's right.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk to your constituents.
Thank you.
All right, take care.